Hey guys, what's up? My name's Nate. This is going to be my first video in a really long time, but there's a lot of things that I've been thinking about and I wanted to talk about, so I just decided to start making some videos, some blog posts and stuff like that, just to kind of get my thoughts out there, and I really want to kind of spread some of these things that I've been really thinking about passionately and that I think are really important. So today what I want to talk about is morality. Now, not just morality, but specifically the lack of morality in today's society, and also the difficulty that plagues the discussion around morality in this society. Now, morality, of course, is not completely gone in today's society. There's lots of different systems of morality, lots of different ideas that people have. People are being moral in lots of ways. It's not just something that's completely void, and a lot of people have some really good ideas and stuff like that. But what I'm really focused on is the fact that for a long time, morality has been something that has developed within cultures and cultures have agreed upon moral rules and ethics and stuff like that. But really what I think the problem is that now that we live in such a connected world, the ideas of morality are just so different coming from multiple cultures, and there's a lot of ways that we can deal with this issue, but one of the ways that people have tried to look at it now is moral relativism, which I think is a really dangerous idea, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But what I'm going to define morality as, just at the start of this video, is participating in good actions, speech, and intentions. I feel like that's a very straightforward definition that probably all systems of morality can agree with. They want to know what are the good or the correct ways to do certain things, the correct things to say in certain situations, and all of those kind of things. Morality as a whole centers around those things. So I want to start with that kind of definition that everybody can agree on and go forth from there. So with this definition, it's very clear that morality is a very important thing. It's something that all societies and cultures are very concerned with. And so we can see that this is actually a very important discussion, and I think that it is the most important discussion that we can be having right now as a species, because for so long we've been in separate cultures, and now that we're in a connected world, we're finding clashes between different views of looking at the world and things like that. So the discussion that really needs to be had is, A, what is morality? Is it a subjective thing? Is it just relativistic? Or is there actually some kind of objective morality, objective ethics and morals that we can look at in society and say, these are kind of the most important things that we need to be looking at and watching for when looking at moral issues and situations. So I think this discussion is something that's very important to have because it guides how individuals act, and we all know that individuals are what makes up a culture and a society, and so the individual really needs to be considered. But furthermore, morality and ethics extend to groups, institutions, and countries, and our whole species. So these kind of things really need to be discussed and really need to be nailed down so we know what we're doing. We know what our goal is. So many people have so many different goals of what we're trying to work for in society right now. But if we can all agree on what we think the most important ideals are, which may never happen, but what's important is that we try to find some things that we can all agree on and work towards. That way we're not all working against each other and not making any progress. So even though everybody kind of knows that morality is important, that we all have these ideas of what's right and wrong, for some reason we always reach this barrier in this conversation where it either becomes a big argument or we get caught up in very specific issues or ignore issues in fear of offending people or going against traditions. And I think that's something that is really, really dangerous, that we really need to go against. And while this is something that may outrage a lot of people and really cause a lot of argument, until we can agree on something, we're not going to get anywhere. And that's something we really need to do. We need to look at traditions that are outdated, that are no longer serving us. And this is why we need to define what is the most important aspects of human well-being. So there's a few conversations and pieces of this conversation that we really need to do. A, we need to decide what morality truly is. We need to clearly dismiss the idea of moral relativity. I think this is extremely dangerous. So what moral relativity basically says is that morals are different based off of the cultures that they're based in. So in one culture, one thing could be wrong, but in another culture, it could be totally okay because it's accepted in that culture. And while this may be an anthropological fact, it is not an objective fact. This is not okay because if you can imagine, and this is a really easy thing to defeat philosophically, imagine a situation where murder was totally okay in a culture. And in some cultures, in some ancient cultures, we see that in certain situations, murder was accepted. So you can imagine that a culture that is okay with that, obviously in our culture, murder is completely wrong. And we know this. This is a fact. Everyone knows that killing other people is not okay. It's not a good thing to do. But the moral relativistic claim would say, well, in that culture, it's completely fine because they all accept that. But that's still wrong. This is obviously bad for human well-being. I mean, that's nothing that can be argued against. Human well-being, if we're dead, we're not good, you know? So if you're killing another person, that person's well-being is completely taken out of the question, and anybody connected to them, their family members, their friends, are all hurt as well. You're causing damage to the human well-being. Even if it were the case that people accepted that murdering them was okay, it's still gonna hurt. It's still not okay to kill someone. It's still not okay to just even physically harm someone in any kind of way. So these are the kind of things that you can obviously tell that moral relativity, while maybe an idea that's tempting, is clearly wrong, and we need to dismiss it quickly and emphatically. So I'm a big fan of Sam Harris, really like that guy's ideas about morality. And he has the claim that values are something that can be decided by science. And what this claim really says is that morality is an objective discussion. It's something that we need to discuss with an objective and sober mind. It's not something that we can get caught up in traditions, caught up in religions, caught up in all of these different cultural aspects and say, oh, well, this has been around for a long time, so we need to consider that as our whole view of morality. No, that's really, really dangerous. So what we need to do is we need to look at what does it mean for a human to really be okay? And then we need to try to figure out what are the steps that we can take to get there. And those were the singular issues right now that are really big and argued about come into play, but that's something we're taking the step too far. We need to take a step back. What we need really is an agreed upon transcendent ethic. Right now, the pillars of morality in society are crumbling. You see religions are getting questioned a lot more right now. We're seeing a lot of people exit religions and try to look towards the academics, but even the academics are having issues with these things in the humanities field, especially in the USA. There's a lot of problems with this right now. So what we really need to be looking at is deciding what institutions are we going to try to establish and look towards to help us gain this view of morality going forward, this objective view. So this is what's really important. Due to the lack of substantive conversation on morality and the diluted view that morality is different for everyone in the world is falling further into a lack of goodness. More chaos is emerging in society, and selfishness is thriving. So we see this with billionaires like Jeff Bezos. The richest man in the world hardly does anything to really help other people because he's so focused on his space stream. Everybody has their interests, he says. But the real issue is somebody who has that much wealth and that much power could be doing so much more for the world to get people out of poverty, to get people out of sickness, to get people out of homelessness. They can set up programs. It's not just about giving away their wealth. And there's a lot of things that they can do. So you look at someone like Bill Gates, who is doing things like that, who is really trying to make the world a better place with his power, his wealth, and his influence. So these are two polar opposite examples of the richest man in the world and the second richest man in the world right now, who are doing completely opposite things with their power, wealth, and influence. So this is something that an agreed upon morality could say, look, this guy, Jeff Bezos, is doing something that is not good. No, maybe not the conversation of moral obligation doesn't even need to come into play. It's not that he's obligated to give his money away. No, it's that he's wrong for not doing something. And, or for doing as little as he is. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to give an outline of that problem as I see it right now for this first video. And then on my next video, I'm going to dive into a little bit more on talking about the specific things that might be the foundation of a moral ethic and how we can maybe start to develop a transcendent ethic. So these things are going to be really important going forth, and I really do think it's going to establish how humanity is going to go forward. For a long time now, we've looked at progress as being something that's super important to show that humanity is advancing, but the moral progress we need to make further steps now. It's time to make further steps on looking at an objective morality and really nailing down what that means. So thanks for watching, guys. Go ahead and subscribe down below. I will put a link to my blog down below, and you can check out some of the things I've been talking about on there. I really appreciate you guys watching, and have a good day.